Welcome. This is a little sneak peek at something that is coming up. It's called Ornamental Christmas. But before I do that and share it with you, my name is Lillian with Stamper's Niche. I'm coming to you from Alberta, Canada. One of the real neat things about being a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator is that you get to order things a month ahead of time. And this is one of the things I chose to order and play with ahead of the September 5th release. So it's called Ornamental Christmas. There's a whole suite of products. We're not using everything in the suite, but we're definitely using the bundle. Why do I like this? I love the fonts, and I love that there are words as well as images, so that we can cover, one stamp set can do it all if we want. Also, the stamp set can kind of stand alone, or it can work with the bundle or with the dies, and vice versa. These can also stand alone if you want. Now, this one here cuts out that tree, and this one cuts out that tree, but obviously they could work on their own and cut out designer paper or colored paper or paper that you want to stamp on. Lots of other things. There. Love how Stampin' Up! Uses every bit of the metal that they use to make the dies. So we've got a few extra little stars. We've got this big intricate star here. We've got a circle, which is ever so handy, as well as an ornament. And then this here, I'm going to show you in a minute, it scores as well as cutting out those dots. So it could be, you could make a little banner for across your ornament, but you could also, then these dots could become ornaments for your tree, right? And then this is like a little holder for your ornaments here. Now remember, it's always great to look at things from different directions. When I looked at this and was playing around and making my Get Acquainted sheet, which I'm going to share in a minute, let me just here. When I covered this over, I thought, oh, it's a pizza slice, or maybe it is an ice cream cone. So you can take a look and see other uses for your dies and have fun with them that way. So those of you who are, pardon me, are familiar with me, you know that when I get a new bundle, I love to do what I call a Get Acquainted sheet. So I play and cut out the dies and just see how they work, because sometimes I'm not totally sure. So here you can see I cut out just the tree shape, but then that's how it looks with the tree stamped in it. And then you could always add some of these little baubles here. And the same with this. These are the words, and then these strings here, which look great strung across the tree or in the background somewhere, or even across the ornament. So look at these, and look at the how you can see the etching and everything there, and around the edges you can see that beveled, and then here you can see that the die creates a dotted line as well as those circles. So there's tons of potential in this die set, or in this whole bundle. So also in this suite, let me just put that aside. Also in this suite is some gorgeous designer paper. It is called Modern Christmas designer paper, Modern Christmas specialty. So specialty means often that there's an extra little something, like this is metallic gold. If I angle this, you can see. So on one side, you will see some metallic. On the other side, you won't. So we've got the stars here, and then we've got the trees here. And you know, you could always bring in a blending brush or some markers and color with some of these. And then we've got this, the same thing. You could add color, but you can see the metallic there. And then we've got fa la 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 there. So that could be tons of fun. And again, this, and of course, this wouldn't just have to be Christmas, and neither would this. So those of you who love your black and white, this paper just might be what you're looking for. The metallic here is right. You can see it's the little sort of, the little geometric shapes there. And then we've got this here. I was thinking this would look neat to cut out one of the tree shapes and then sponge in some color. I think there's potential there. This is a neat sheet. So you could use it as is, or you could punch out circles or something like that and make a little focal point. And then who doesn't love a few polka dots? I do. And then this is tons of metallic, but you've got your ornaments like that. So you could use it as a feature piece, or you could cut those out. You would have to fussy cut them yourself. And then we've got some great plaid here. So fabulous designer paper. So I needed to make a card for a swap. And when I looked at the designer paper, I started out initially thinking, oh, I'll make a white background. And then I changed my mind and went with crumb cake. So let me just show you the card that we're making. So this is how I used the designer paper, the big die, and one part of the words. Oh, I forgot to show you something else in that suite. Another thing in that suite is called the black, white, and gold baker's twine. So this is really neat baker's twine. I can see myself using this on tons of projects. So there's black and gold, and there's white and gold. So on this card, I'm using the black and gold, but I love that twine. So okay, we're going to start with our basic 5.5 by 8.5 scored in the middle. So it's just a basic card. We're going to bring in our bone folder and burnish that fold nice and sharp. And then we're going to put that to the side. We're not going to use it for a little bit. Then we're going to bring in a piece of crumb cake that is 3 3/4 by 5. And we are going to bring in our Simply Scored. Now you can do this with your paper trimmer as well, using the scoring tool. Either works. I just find it easier on my Simply Scored. And I left my toothbrush on here for a reason. This is not my toothbrush. This is my crafting toothbrush, because this is a great way to clean those grooves, because a Simply Scored has all these little grooves, all 1/8 of an inch apart, and it gets lint and little bits of pieces in there. And then we have our scoring tool. So I'm going to put the side I want face down. And it really doesn't matter on this project, but there's a little bit of a ridge there. So I'm going to put it face down, and I'm going to use the smaller end. So there's a bigger end, which I use for designer paper all the time, and a smaller end. And I'm going to start at 1/2 inch, and I'm just, going to pull down. Okay, I'm going to show you how you can fix that little, see how I jumped ship there a little bit? You can bring in your bone folder and just go over top of that and just kind of smooth it out, because that kind of thing happens sometimes. It's not going to totally eradicate it, but it will definitely make it less noticeable. In fact, I don't notice it at all. So back to this small end. We've done it at the 1/2 inch. And it's easier to not jump ship if you're standing straight on. I'm a little bit of an angle here. And then I'm going to go at 1/8 of an inch. But you can do whatever you want. So every little groove I'm going to do. So there we go. So now we've got 3. I could stop there. I think I'm going to do 5. So I did every groove between 1/2 an inch and 1 inch. So they're all 1/8 of an inch apart. And then on so what I'm doing is my own embossing like that. Then I want to do the same for the paper on the inside. So we have a choice. There's very vanilla or white. So when I did my swap cards, which I was doing a whole bunch of these, I used the white just because that was what was in the paper. And then afterwards I thought, wouldn't it look nice with having the very vanilla on the inside? So for a variation, I'm going to do the very vanilla, but if you're making this at home, you can make whatever you want. So I'm going to put the good side down again, and I'm going to start at 1/2 an inch, And because I want to put a greeting in here and some writing, I'm not going to do 5. I'm only going to do 3 lines. It just keeps that design, it carries it through to the inside, but it still gives us room. So let's see, can you see that? There, I think you can see it. So we're finished with the Simply Scored now. And we're going to bring our crumb cake one back in. So this is the one that we have done our score lines on. And we have a piece of the designer paper that is 2 inches by 4 inches. I did that because I could get more from my paper. It's easier if you do keep your even numbers, and so this helped me to get maximum use from my paper. Now I could always flip it over and use the trees too, right? But I'm going to use this side, and then I have a piece of basic black that is just 1/4 of an inch bigger, so it's 2 1/4 by 4 1/4. If you like tiny edges, you could make it 2 1/8 by 4 1/8, but I was wanting a little variety, and I thought, well, I'll just do it this way. I am thinking this is going to be for a beginner's card making class, or part of this design is, and I didn't want to play with tiny edges with beginners. So we've got this like that, making sure the edges border looks pretty even all the way around. So we've got that like that, and then this is going to get glued down flat. You could put it on dimensionals, but we're putting quite a few other things on dimensionals, and I didn't want it to be too bulky. So again, that is your choice. And when you see the finished, you could make your own decision. And if you're hand delivering, then you might want to use dimensionals. So now we've got it like that. And then we're going to, remember, this is 3 3/4 by 5. Now you could easily just put this with dimensionals on here. Well, actually, I should maybe finish this and then you can make that decision. I'm going to change my order here. So our next step is I cut out this beautiful star from gold foil, and we're going to put it on like that. You can decide where you want it. Now, when you're looking at this gold star, there are 2 points that are a little taller, and I chose to put them top and bottom. And I actually have a bunch of mini black dimensionals to use up, so I'm going to use them, and because they're perfect for these little points. Whoops, I didn't want to do it on every. Well, we'll do that one. I was going to skip and do every other. Now, before I take those backings off and glue it down, I want to check and make sure that none is sticking over. I did that okay, so we're going to take those backings off. I like to use my take your pick tool and just bring it in at a slight angle and collect all those backings. Look for my points and kind of go about there. It helps if I have my card straight, then it helps my eyes see it. So now we've got a little bit of a body there. Now I'm going to be putting this here. Did I put it? I should put it just a smidge higher. Let's see if I can. Oh, I didn't press it too hard, so it's good. So I'm going to put it so the point is just below the top, just so I have some room down here. If I had words that fit, I could have stamped right on here, but I wanted to use wishing you peace and joy, so I thought, well, we'll go with this. So here's a piece that is 3 3/4 again, but only 1/2 inch, because you see how that works like that. And because I have this gold here and the gold here, I wanted to do some gold embossing. So I'm bringing in my embossing kit, and I've got this, always use your embossing buddy before embossing, especially on dark colors, but any color. And then we're going to use our Versamark and ink up. Remember, you don't want to go way down. You want to just ink the raised part. You don't have to be super duper strong on that. And for me, it's easier to line things up if I use my grid. And because this is long and narrow, I'm going to make sure that I'm getting a firm image in the middle as well. And I think that works pretty well. So now we will close up these things. I always keep my embossing buddy with my Versamark to help me remember to use the embossing buddy, because nothing's worse than getting your image stamped. I shouldn't have put that down in there. And then the embossing powder sticking where you don't want it to stick. So now I'm going to just grab the end with my tweezers. These tweezers come with the embossing kit. I love this tray when I'm doing shaker cards as well. I use it to catch little bits and pieces, that kind of thing. Now we're going to take a close look, and if you see little stray bits of gold, you try to catch them and brush them off with the brush. Then, because I've had an accident or two, I am going to put the lid on that and move it out of the way and bring in my heat tool. So right now it's powder, and if I brushed it, it would all brush off. But once we start to bring in our heat tool, and it works, it just needs to heat up, you can see it starting to change. See the difference there? This is called heat embossing, and it is just like magic. And once I see it change color, I move along. I don't hold it forever in one spot. Once the heat tool is heated up, it goes pretty quickly. Let's put that down. And there we go. Now you might say there are little bits of white on there. Yeah, that's likely from the embossing buddy. So I keep a little soft cloth, and once it's dry, which is pretty fast, I just brush off that powder, and I might have a few spots there, but I really don't mind. It kind of goes with the stars, right? So I am going to put this on dimensionals again, and it's going to tuck in right about there. So we'll bring in these minis again. I love black dimensionals when I'm working on dark projects because they just camouflage. And the other thing is black dimensionals come in two sizes. In one package, you get both sizes, the regular size and the minis. And for some reason, I've used up all my regulars and not my minis. But they work just as well. In fact, they're perfect for this project. So we're going to slide it just so that it catches the tip. And again, I'm going to use my grid paper to help me get this straight. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So we've got it like that. Now this is where you can make a decision. Do you want to just put it on dimensionals and have it look like that? Or do you want a little bit of black underneath? So again, that is your choice. I chose to put a little bit of black. This time I did go with the narrow border. If I'm doing it with beginners, I might go for the wider. So this is 3 3/4 by 5. So this is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. We're going to glue these two together, and then we'll put the whole panel on dimensionals. Again, sometimes it's easier once you pick it up to make sure you've got it straight. Then we're going to put this on dimensionals. Now, if I wanted bigger pieces, I could use the edge to I'll save that for another one because these are working just fine for this. I like to put some in the middle so my card doesn't sag. And we'll center it on here. So the basic layout of this card is pretty simple, and you can jazz it up or play it down any way you want. So we've got it like that. Now we're going to bring in some of that twine. We're going to bring in the black and gold. And I always like to take my, take your pick tool, the blade end, and cut little slits so that I can put the end in there and it doesn't unravel. So we're going to just tie a little bow here. I should have maybe tied it, not on camera, but you know. Now, obviously that's a wonky bow. So what you do is you hang on to the middle and start to make it the size you want. And once you're happy, you're going to trim the ends off like that. And then you're going to wrap your twine back up and put the end through there, and it won't unravel. So there we have that. So now we're going to fasten this. I actually, when I was designing this card, I moved it all over the place, and in the end, I decided I liked it there. So we're going to bring in a glue dot, and we're going to roll it so it's long and skinny instead of round. And then put it on the back here. And I just love how the black and the gold theme kind of carries through on everything here. So we've got that like that. And then, you know, we need a little embellishment. So I went back to one of my favorite, the iridescent foil gems. So here they are here. They come, the iridescent foil gems. These are not new, but they are definitely a go-to for me. And I'm going to pop just one on there. I know I usually spend forever deciding, but I've been making a lot of these. So there we have it like that. Now the inside, we got this ready here for the inside. Remember we did, okay, let's see if we can get, we did 3 lines of embossing, and one of the stamps in the set says Merry Christmas, and I thought that would look really nice in here, and I'm just going to do it in black. You could do it in gold, but because I was making so many, I decided to keep it simple and just go with the black in here. There we go. And again, make sure things are straight. Now, if you like to write lots of words, put it high. I have trouble thinking of words to write, so I like to put mine just above the middle. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh, I love it. Okay, so I'm going to fasten that together. And I am going to bring in this, because this is 3 3/4 by 5, just like the crumb cake on the front. I have a second piece of black that's 3 7/8 by 5 1/8, and I'm just going to layer it together to bring that whole look right into the inside. Just get it centered. And then we'll bring our card back in. And we are just about done. I'm going to show you a little, if you didn't want to do the gold embossing on the front, what you could do. So there you have it. We have it going like that and like that. Now, if you were wanting to sell these cards, you would have to put a stamp on the back that says copyright Stampin' Up. And there are different ones. And they every year they release a different one. So I'm just going to, I'm not necessarily going to sell this card, but just so that we show that Stamping Right has the Stamping Up has the copyright for this. So there you have it like that. Now you can decide if do you like the vanilla in the front or in the inside, or do you like the white? Your choice. There you have a little choice there. And let me just also show, if you did not want to do embossing on there, so for example, if it was a beginner class or something, you could use a piece of crumb cake, I think this one looks better, and stamp it on there and put it across, and then you would skip the embossing step, and that also looks really nice. So that's just another choice there. So there you have it. There is your introduction to Ornamental Christmas, and maybe your first Christmas card, or maybe it's inspiring you. So where can you find these? These are found in the online store. So if you went to my website and typed in Ornamental Christmas, or even Christmas likely, you would see this come up. All right. So thank you so much. Remember, I truly appreciate you subscribing, giving me a thumbs up, or just making sure that you show that you maybe even leave a comment. All of those things help me as a business here. I will have a PDF for this, and I will put the link in the comments afterwards. So thank you so much for joining me. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.